think we've got some questions through the Slido. So we're going to open it up and pull those questions up to put you guys on the spot.
Go on then.
Cool. So first question, Olly and Harrison, what's been the hardest challenge that you've had to overcome as scaling a brand? And your top tips for brands that are just starting out?
Who wants to go first? Go on, I'll lean on you for this one.
I think top tips for brands starting out, I think I kind of covered that a minute ago. I think it's do the fundamentals first. So get really clear on like what your value prop is, what your product really does for a consumer, package it up in really good creative and run it on one channel. And that'll get you kind of quite far, surprisingly far, a lot of the time if you do it very well. Hardest challenge has probably been some of the, and it's kind of probably cracking the US market, to be honest, if I say we've been burning for a bit on that one. Maybe
I was going to say, I'd second that one.
Probably the hardest challenge right now, and we're still trying to overcome it, to be honest, so current tense.
Yeah, I think, I'd second that US one, 100%. It's pretty hard, but you just got to stick with it. I think if you kind of can see that small growth, then it's going to turn into big once you do crack it. I guess everyone's kind of looking for that one moment when it does, but I'm sure it'll come for us. I'm sure it'll come for everyone trying to do it. I think for us, it's probably been trying not to look at something when it's down. Like, I think we've seen so much growth that we've kind of looked to see nowadays, like one thing's down and we're like, oh God, okay, we need to change our whole strategy. When in reality, we're fine. It might have just been a couple of things that have gone, I don't want to say wrong, but a couple of releases for us anyway from here and there.
Not being too immediately reactive.
No, don't switch everything off and go, okay, no, we need to put everything elsewhere. I guess that for us, and just, I guess, knowing exactly what's working. What channel's working. I think before Fospha, we were just spending on whatever, and platforms like to tell us that it's working, but in reality, was it? But yeah, I guess having the information now to actually tell us what is working was hard before, but I guess we've overcome that challenge now, luckily.
Brilliant. Cool. And then the next question that we've got here is, what's the best approach in platform for a young brand starting to scale Meta?
Yeah.
So one for you, Alfonso.
Yeah, so I think this touches one of the things that we mentioned before about the challenge of coming up with recommendation that can work for everyone. But as I understand, the question goes in that direction. I can say that at the beginning, the most important thing is that you are creating this customer base and that you are making sure that your brand communication is relevant to them and you are achieving the objective that you are pursuing in the platform. In Meta, as you guys probably know, you have a lot of different objectives that you can set for your campaign to be optimized against. And at the beginning, I would recommend to come up with conversion engagement objectives to make sure that you are being relevant in the platform. And then as you scale up, I think it is important to combine your ROI objective shorter term with the need of having like a sustainable growth within the platform. And for that, it's important to have like a proper combination of higher funnel, mid funnel, lower funnel strategies. So to come up with a proper full funnel strategy within the platform is super important. And finally, I know for a young brand, it's like, you are starting almost from scratch when we talk about measurement, but it is important that you start creating some culture within the company for measurement to be a key element to support decision making, and that you are doing this as accurately as possible. And as much as you are combining different channels, this element of proper cross-media measurement and understanding the contribution of all the different platforms becomes super crucial, a key element for the longer term growth. Yeah, I would say.
Brilliant. Thank you for that.
Of course, yeah.
Great. Cool. Another question back for Olly and Harrison. You see the theme here with the brand questions coming out. So you can fight over this one. But how do you guys balance efforts between acquiring new customers and retaining existing ones, specifically as you scale?
I'll go on this one to start. And, I think I probably mentioned before in terms of our community and our core customers, I think that helps us retain very, very well.
Yeah.
Those kind of core guys that we have, they're very loyal. And as that grows, obviously we've got loyalty schemes in place to also help that as well. So I guess, I don't want to say it takes care of itself, but I guess so it does a bit. So I guess from my end, I can focus more on that new customer acquisition going forward. So I guess that's how I balance it quite well.
I think for us, we're slightly different in terms of we operate on a consumable. It's not a subscription consumable, so it's not as predictable as others, but like we resource those two functions differently. So I spend a lot of my time on growth and new customer acquisition and ensuring that we're adding a high volume of new customers at our target CAC. And then we have a team that looks after that kind of retention piece. How do we maximize LTV? How do we maximize repurchase rate? How do we drive the highest number of people to buy twice, not just once, because that's often a big bottleneck. And just getting really clear on KPI ownership within those teams, and then the tactical execution that flows from that. So like for new customers, it's a lot of the things we've discussed. For repeat, it's like email, SMS, and just having great people to support on both, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to kind of like separate out those KPIs because kind of doing very different things.
Yeah.
Do you ever come into scenarios where they're kind of conflicting tactics between the two?
Good question. I think not really an answer to that, but I think that a lot of your surprising amount of your LTV and retention is driven by how good your acquisition is. I find for brands, like if you make, because you acquire a higher value customer by like selling more products on the front end, so like they can be complementary. I guess we've had tests that maybe favour new customer acquisition, like a free sample funnel, for example, but then brings in a worse cohort of customers who then go on to spend less over time. So it's important not to over-optimise towards one in favour of the other and really measure them on like a 60 or 90 day time frame from our point of view.
It's about coming up with a qualitative validation of your customer acquisition tactics.
It's like that cohort, rather than just looking at how much we acquire and how many, it's like, all right, how much is that month's worth of customers worth to us over the next 90 days? Exactly. And measuring it around that instead.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think from a Fospha perspective, one of the things that I'm always most excited to show a new brand in our platform is when we've got kind of new customer reporting alongside kind of the overall blended metrics. So you've got cost per purchase, but you've also got customer acquisition cost. So you can really see kind of visibility of which channels, or even within channels, which ones are driving the most new customers, which I think is a slightly different perspective that sometimes brands don't always have before. Cool. One for you, Alfonso. So what's your best advice to allow Advantage Plus campaigns to work? And how are you taking learnings from an audience perspective?
I will hand it over to you.
You want me to answer that?
Expert on Advantage Plus.
Yeah, I'm the ultimate
Proper
one for you.
This type of campaign.
It's I think for us, we got to just let them fly, basically. You just got to let AI do the job. They know more than you, to be fair. They know how to tap into that customer when you don't. It's quicker than you. It works more than you. Like you got to let it go. Put the right creatives in. I think for us, we obviously saw that it was, I'd say, preferring, but like kind of dynamic product ads. Obviously that doesn't work for all businesses, but if it's doing that, look to possibly split those out like we've done. Focus a bit of spend towards each one of those. But have a lot of creative in there as well and let the algorithm do the work.
Actually, I can say that one of the more common tests that advertisers are running with us is about in A/B testing, comparing Advantage Plus with their business as usual, which is a lot of manual intervention campaigns. And it's what you said. So the more you let the algorithm work, not in all cases, but in most cases, you see like better optimized campaign results.
For us, it's like when you're running a lot of Advantage Plus, it's almost the workflows that don't happen in the ad account that are more important, like creative, post-click, like getting more variables into it, giving it more to test. From an audience perspective, that I think you can get a lot of insights on the breakdown. I think the key thing we always keep a really close eye on is the percentage it spends on repeat customers, and because if it's important to make sure that it's incremental and not doing too much retargeting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Have you got any advice specifically on that piece around retargeting?
Yeah, I think we talked about this before. I think retargeting and prospecting are kind of different language used to talk about higher funnel, lower funnel. So making sure that you are bringing new customers is important, and obviously you should get the most out of your customer that are more loyal. So I think the PLTV, for instance, is a good way of measuring and optimizing towards that. Both things are important, but the risk of spending a lot only on retargeting is obviously a risk for your future growth, obviously. So, and this is something that is important to bear in mind, because you are always tempted to try to get the best ROIs tomorrow, but you have to think, okay, if I always impacting the same profile of audience, I'm basically killing my brand. So longer term growth is super important.
And possibly feeds back into your point earlier, Ollie, on different channels kind of feeding into each other and that interplay for overall growth with different channels working together. Cool. Back to you, Harrison. Please, can you elaborate more on how TikTok campaigns were tested in the beginning and how you've scaled there now?
The TikToker when we got meant to do as well. That's not very nice.
Feel free, I'm gonna learn a lot.
In terms of testing on it, I don't even want to say they were tested per se. We just kind of ran them and trusted the platform actually was giving us the good numbers, and I guess we saw good numbers on the platform, but in reality we probably didn't have the best content. Our content, like I mentioned before, is Instagram first. We don't really do too much organic TikTok at all. So what we done way more of was using influencers, really. I think probably 70-80% of our content on TikTok now is influencer Spark ads, which, again, they perform like so much better than our own content, purely because they are native to the platform. We probably aren't the best on it. And it's seen in all the kind of engagement metrics, the click metrics, everything on there that influence performs best. So I guess now we are able to grow our influencer roster and have, I guess, TikTok own ones, and we're able to use that content across, their main market where they're from, use it across all different markets, and then, scale spend where we see that it's profitable for us.
Cool. And you mentioned kind of trusting in platform in the early stages there.
Yeah.
How much were you looking at kind of versus the blended overall performance and keeping your eyes on that as a good indication of how it was working?
Probably not as good as we could have been. I think we trusted platform data for so long, and then when you kind of look at if you look at all, I guess, the major three, TikTok, Google, Meta, and you look at all the revenues that they say that they make for you, and you add it up and you're like, that's probably a bit more than... Yeah, and you're like, okay, we've made...
It's not you guys.
Yeah, we've made more revenue through these than we have on our whole business. So, that's when we started to ask questions. So, obviously, having the platform like Fospha to actually tell us, I guess, properly what's generating what, then really helped. And then we could look at an overall perspective then and really kind of pull those levers into what is working properly for us.
Definitely. Cool. Makes sense. Another one for Ollie and Harrison. God, this is a long one. I'm reading with my eyes. It makes so much sense to me as we scale to look to expand our audience and invest in upper funnel, but I can't get the business to buy in. How did you guys manage to get your exec or finance teams on board to run tests like this?
Don't tell them. That's a good one. Just don't tell them exactly what you're doing. Again, having the measurement in place to go to them and say, look, we ran this upper funnel campaign, we didn't waste 100,000 or whatever, let's say. It actually, in the long term, can do X, Y, and Z for you. that, I guess you can go, finance teams are incredibly hard to speak to about this, but again, I don't want to keep bigging up Fospha too much, but having the platform to actually show them that it does work can help, and just having that, I guess, open and honest conversation that it's needed within the funnel is, I guess, how I'd say to them.
Yeah, definitely. I think our customer success team are always looking at ways to learn from brands and what's the best view that we can arm you guys with to take that information to whoever it might be internally, whether it's your CFO or other people in the business, to try and make that case. I think it's such a flip from maybe the views of the world that they've seen before, whether that's Google Analytics or another alternative in the past. So I think, really key to make sure you can explain that with the information that you've got. Cool. And one more question for Alfonso. So this one is, we have a growing subscription brand and are increasing meta spend. How do I take my meta strategy to the next level?
Yeah, that's another good question. Yeah, I would say there are two things that you should do. So one is basically one thing that we mentioned before, which is about placements. So making sure that you are upscaling, I would say, your creative strategy to fit in the different placements that are available within Meta, and that you are using all those channels to drive a meaningful connection with your customers, with your community. I love this way of, rather than customer, you have the opportunity to drive a community in the platform. This is one thing, and the other one, I mean, I don't know if this is, not necessarily be positive for Meta, I would say, at immediate term, but I think as you are growing, it is important to come up with proper cross-media measurement and understanding how can you better optimize your investment, advertising investment, with this cross-media perspective. So I think those two things, so making sure you are getting the most out of the platform with the creative plus placement strategies being a key element for future growth, and then making sure that you are taking well-informed decisions from cross-media perspective, I think are very important levels of future growth. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you. Cool. So I think that's all the questions we've had from the group today. So thanks so much on all your insights on those. I think we've had some really interesting kind of topics to cover here, hearing firsthand your guys' experience, kind of scaling your brands, kind of layered in with best practice and opportunities in Meta as well. So thank you so much for all your insights today. And for everyone on the line, if you want some more detail on the topics that we've discussed, kind of covered by the report, then you can use the QR code here to download. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. I hope you all found that interesting. Cool.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.